Now, I can tell you now, our total here in the UK is £1,363,107 sterling. That's since we started about 3 hours ago, and that's here in the UK alone, don't forget. Now, don't forget, this programme is being taken in 37 world countries at the moment, so obviously the overall total will be much, much more than that. But we want a lot more. It's worth staying up. It's a long old show yet. We've still got Paul Simon's coming up later on, Gloria Estefan, MC Hammer, more from In Excess, more from Christopher, and well-known top British entertainer Griff Jones.
And all that before 11 o'clock as well.
Now, I mean, in actual fact, I mean, for people around the world who think, who is that strange man sitting there on the chair next to Chris by satellite? I mean, Comic Relief actually is a British effort that's raised a lot of money, particularly for Africa, through comedy rather than the music like tonight. Why aren't we closer to solving things, Griff, or are we? I mean, the African situation seems to be...
I'm not an expert, but I think that the situation, we're not, it's not a question of getting closer to solving in as much as, you know, very occasionally I go out and have a haircut. And then, well, I don't think, well, I'm sitting there in the barber's chair, well, I'm good, I've got that out of the way, and I won't, you know, I won't have to sort that out again. I think there is a sense in which we're facing a fairly...
it's an ongoing problem with the drought.
It's an ongoing thing.
Do you think people are terrified by just how big the problem seems to be and think that there's nothing there's no point even giving a fiver because...
Well, I think that's a real problem at the moment, because there seems to be, the bigger the crisis becomes, the more it's beginning to be used as an excuse by some people to say, well, I can distance myself from this is too huge. But I always think that in a funny way, and I suppose that I'm influenced by the fact that, you know, I went out to Sudan and met people. And in a sense, immediately you do that, you realise that the logistics of discussing it as if it was a sort of rational problem, which if you can pass over to the politicians it'll go away, is not really true. Because if it was my mother that was dying, or my children that were dying, it would be a very big thing to me, not to mention to my mother or my children, if somebody could save their life. And the great thing is that at the moment I mean, Comic Relief, we raised about 17 million, so there's about $1 million going out a month, and that's going out, and all that money is saving lives, and each life that's saved is a huge thing for that person, and a huge thing to achieve. And just saving one person's life, one child's life, is such a big thing that it seems to me that we ought to cut through all the excuses and the kerfuffle and the people saying, well, you know, this is being caused by political situations, and really ask ourselves whether we want to do something to help.
Well, I mean, of course it's worth it. Griff was talking about going to the Sudan. We can say that for all the aid that has been sent to Africa, the situation at this very moment, this week in Ethiopia, does seem to be worsening every day. Now, Africa has faced famine before, but rarely has the threat been as overwhelming as it is now. Over now to Charles Wheeler. Griff, I mean, from your involvement in relief, do you think that, I mean, a lot of people always say, oh yes, but you send your money to Oxfam or whoever, and all these administrators get in the way. I mean, in actual fact, without the administrators, you see the sort of scenes that we saw early on tonight, people fighting over loaves of bread and all that, don't you?
Yeah, I think that's the best argument you can possibly give for it. I mean, they're trying to take food at the moment from the Red Sea to Red Sea port into Darfur, and that's 2,000 miles, that journey. And the administration organisation of that is a vital part of it. If you haven't got that right, then it's not even worth starting. And so inevitably the percentage of money that goes on administration and getting things and getting experts into the field and getting things done properly is money well spent.
So I think a lot of people thought that, you know, you just write out a cheque and millions of pounds are raised and that solved that, you know, and it's actually nothing like that. That's just the beginning, isn't it?
You also, when you go out there, you meet people working in the field, and I'm staggered by the sort of work and the sort of conditions they're expected to work under, which we wouldn't expect anybody to work under in this country. And just because they're doing, as it were, our work for us, I think it's important that they should be supported in every way they can.
Okay, well, it's an incredible lineup tonight, and there's still an awful lot to come. Still the wonderfully talented, worryingly suntanned Gary Davis, the equally talented, but not quite so sun-bronzed Griff Jones, live on stage here at Wembley Arena. Man who's been storming them here. He's been here all week getting his bad self down, and indeed on occasion getting his yah-yahs out. That's MC Hammer. Now, before all that, we now go via satellite to a New York recording studio, and the music comes from Sakamoto. And we know now that money's coming an amazing amount of money coming very quickly from all around the world. Griff, thanks very much for coming in. You're a very busy schedule.
No, I've done, you know, I think MC Hammer does a fantastic job, didn't you think?
Well, I think he did model his dancing style on your work, actually.
Not only that, he can actually be heard in Kurdistan, which is really fantastic.
Quite incredible.
Turn the
Now,
volume up.
Have you ever played the National Tennis Centre, Melbourne, Griff?
I have not. No, I don't
Well,
think so.
funny, because now we go to that palladium of Melbourne sporting venues, hopefully via satellite down under. Once again on the centre court we find In Excess.
Hooray!
In Excess, they're playing the National Tennis Centre in Melbourne, a bit like status quo on the centre court at Wimbledon. Right, well now, with us now, back here in London, UK, is the man who sparked off the whole of this Kurdish appeal, Mr. Geoffrey Archer. Geoffrey, you must be delighted with how it's going.
Wonderful. I think the amazing thing about it is it's youth-led. You've only got to see the people in that audience. It's the young people in this country and in countries right across the world who once again have shown they care. I only hope the old fogies who are watching are joining in as well, because they've set a hell of an example.
The thing that's impressed me tonight, and I impressed everybody, I think, is how incredibly complicated this is, and yet how quickly it somehow all happened. I mean, MC Hammer here, Whitney Houston, you know, people down in Australia In Excess. It's an incredible achievement in what, 15 days? 16 days?
16 days, and when we first started, we thought it would be in 2 countries, and we thought that Harvey would get together about 8 stars. Last night it was 22 stars, 34 countries, 400 million people. And it showed that the BBC really were able to do an immensely complicated organisation in a very, very short time. And we owe a great deal to the BBC for having said, we'll do it.
Well, that's all right, and it hasn't actually fallen apart yet, so fingers crossed it keeps up. Now listen, I can tell you, as well as the very large total we've already got in the UK, which is well over 1.5 million, and don't forget the whole thing is going out to 37 countries around the world, so I've no idea what the final world total is going to be, but it's going to be quite massive. Here in the UK, I can tell you this, Jeff, and this figure's only just come through to me, I can tell you that from, as well as the 1.5 million or whatever we've already raised in the UK, I can tell you also that from television and radio sales of this programme now, and also ticket sales here at Wembley, and some of the merchandising as well, we're adding at least another £1 million to the running total.
That's wonderful.
So that's fantastic.
So we're over
way,
2.5
well over
million
2.5,
now.
something like that.
Without any of the other countries.
Yeah, so there are 36 other countries to go to that. So I mean, it's quite incredible.
And do people realise that there's a telephone going in Japan for the first time in history?
Really?
And this show is going to Russia for the first time. So there are some real firsts here.
Okay, well now here's another outstanding technical link-up, except this actually was something we had to tape earlier on, because problems with the satellite to Manchester of all places. We've been all around the world. This is something we had to tape a bit earlier on. It's Manchester, England's GMEX Centre, and on stage, Paul Simon. Really has been an incredible few hours, all these bands linking up right across the world, from all around the world, giving their time to this amazingly worthwhile cause. Your generosity, as always, has been quite overwhelming. Thanks everybody who's been on the phones all night. The concert here at Wembley alone has generated over £1 million extra in ticket sales, merchandising, TV and radio programme sales, as well as the huge total that's still pouring in here in the UK. And don't forget, this whole thing is going to 37 countries around the world. Thank you very much for all your donations. The appeal continues until May the 25th. It's been the most incredible televised concert I've ever seen. Here's Krista Berg with The Simple Truth.